The background material in this video can be viewed at thewaythetruthandthelife.net. More specific references will be given in the notes. It is October 21st, 2012, and I'm working on the foundation section of my website, thewaythetruthandthelife.net, and going through all the problems, whether of threats to society through cults or threats to society through the breakdown of the home. I find the breakdown of the home something that is happening more and more. I am concerned about a murdering cult that tries to bring people under submission, and here where I am in Russia, there's murder under the name of serving Allah all the time. But the general population is apathetic. They were devastated by their war in Afghanistan. They had the Soviet Union had supported Islamic terrorists when they were acting against the United States or Western Europe or Israel. But the United States used the same tactic in supporting the Taliban through the Pakistani intelligence service and the northern tribes of Pakistan, which were Taliban related, and gave them shoulder launchers to shoot down planes full of Soviet troops. And also Russia had many examples of their soldiers being enslaved and horrendous, treated as slaves of Islam. But that is not what I'm concerned about in this video. My concern is the degradation of society. It's changed so much from the farm town that I grew up in, where family farms were the norm, and we're breaking down. I was born just before the Second World War, and the Second World War put women in the factories and started the breakdown of the home and women's liberation, which meant the denial of child needs for a nursing bond and a mother in the home as a homemaker, and replaced breastfeeding with bottle feeding and child maternal care with babysitters and daycare. But now here, just even in this town where I am in Russia, they've had young girls attacking other girls and shoving things in their private parts. And there's another video you can see, I think it's on YouTube, of girls here beating up another girl and shoving dog excrement in her mouth. And you can find the same thing with girls, a girl murdering a girl on the way home from school in Los Angeles, and you find the same thing in China. And it wasn't that way when I grew up. The boys fought, but so that there's a general degradation. And what I have discovered is that America, being founded on family farms, was a special environment. Just like in China, the ability to love and respect family grew in the area of family farms. Now, in Russia, there wasn't that much of a background of family farms. It was more like a plantation environment until Peter the Great. The people didn't own the property, and the Lord had the sexual rights to a maiden on her wedding night. There wasn't that much of a family here, except for some groups, and there's a group that guarded the borders against Islamic invasions, and they have a special culture that was respected in Russia because they would guard the fields at night, and they're still here. That special Christian subculture in Russia and Eastern Europe, in English are called Kazakhs, in Russian Kazaki. They basically were family farms and farm communities, but they learned to protect themselves and built a culture of having community defense, riding horses, and confronting the Islamic invaders to protect their land. But as you probably know, the Caucasus were Christian and Buddhist. The Islamic invasions with either murdering or and beheading or converting to Islam, and then indoctrinating the children so they're robots. But at any rate, Russia is as far as its culture goes. You can ask any one of them, are you a Christian? And they'll say yes. They have crosses and icons all over. But they don't care less about the churches being burned and the Christians being murdered, like it was just a peaceful protest in Cairo of about a church being burned, and there were Muslim cars driving through them with no problem, and along comes a armored truck running over and massacring. But nobody here cares about those things. They don't even want to talk about them. And I'm a member of a home church where many of the people in authority there will degrade you if you just think on nice things and don't. And I was surprised to discover that. I guess it's the next to last psalm. It says that it's your place to have a sword to protect your fellow saints and yourself and your home. At any rate, the problem here is the breakdown of the family and home. A big part of it is unwanted pregnancies, and it's okay to abort, to murder unwanted fetuses. They don't call it murder, they make it legal, but it doesn't change the reality. You're killing a healthy life. Now, mercy killing of an unhealthy animal or fetus is not a murder. It's an act of mercy. And killing someone for a criminal act is not a murder. It's an execution. It needs to have the witnesses and the hearing and the not this murderous activity of chopping off people's heads and just terrorizing. At any rate, let's get down to reality on this. Yes, there is a worldwide problem with the increase in population. And I remember as a young man how appalled I was at the Catholic rejection of birth control, and I felt that it was just their power grabbed the wanting population by birth. And that's part of it too. Islam has a birthing policy today. As the Turkish general said, we don't have to take Europe by jihad. We're going to ride the democratic bus. And they have a birthing policy. As I mentioned before, Gaza has increased its population since 1950, I think 17 times, and their average age is under 14. And we're supporting them through the United Nations, giving them food and housing so that they can carry on this birthing policy. That's another thing. But the urbanization, the breakdown of the farm, which the Christian and Buddhist loving ability came from family love. The basic premise and reality is children need a family structure and the love and care to grow to the higher levels of being able to care and take responsibility and care about others like self and care about the future in God's creation. And Christianity and Buddhism in its peaceful, loving way grew in farm family areas. And the United States was a gifted place where the savages that were doing human sacrifice were not that many. That's a distraction, but know that where I, 2 miles from where I lived, the Tuscarora Indians are, and the Indian tribe that lived there, the neuters were murdered, exterminated, and the 2 French missionaries that came were horrendously tortured and the meat cut off their legs and roasted and eaten in front of them while they were tied in there being killed. And the one had his tongue and lips cut off because he kept preaching Jesus even while he was tied there being mutilated. But these noble savages that the old, evil Europeans invaded, you can hear that story in virtually any community college and liberation group that wants to degrade Europeans, while if you look at the horrendous murder and rape and the destruction of Christians in the Christian land of Armenia, destroyed by these barbaric Muslims invading, and nobody will even take a stand against their horrendous mass murders because, we don't want to lose respect of Turkey. Well, that's another thing. I've been following those 3 young men murdered for printing Bibles there and how they're protected by the government and using their murder to eliminate the secularist generals and army officers and jail them, blame them for it's an old trick. At any rate, so here you have on one side, you can't have an unlimited population growth, and raising children in a city and in apartments is not raising healthy futures. It deprives them of the love and care and the lack of family homes and mother in the home. So what do we do? What about pregnancy? I was motivated to start this video because of the quote President Obama said about he had 2 children and he wouldn't want to punish them for making a mistake by denying them abortion. And I had a daughter that had a child out of wedlock, and I loved the boy. He didn't please me very much as far as making a Christian home and marriage. But that's another story of failure to build a Christian home, and the same as his mother and stepfather. Much. I still pray for my grandchildren. I have 13 of them. There's a number of step-grandchildren that I care for. Right now, I'm trying to help raise a 3-year-old that hasn't got a father. And the mother is so busy working that she's with us 6-7 days a week. But where am I going with this? How to build a healthy society. First of all, what I see going on with the urbanization and the corruption of production by socialism and licensing, the evil of the medical profession in America, a license to steal. Just like being an attorney or being a dentist now, they use the licensing to control access to the field, and then it's a profit motive. These people should all be on salary, on a reasonable salary, and their bonuses should be based on their evaluation by the people they serve, as well as the people who are servicing them. But that's another thing. I'm a retired teacher, and I understand how much teachers need supported. I see a lot of love. The teachers should have the opportunity to provide a healthy environment for children, and that means the research for how many one person can supervise. It was done as part of the space program, how to choose a company, how do they, the lowest bid, what if they're got faulty personnel policies, like one person having to service a group of 20 and another one says 8, and they did research and found that as far as coordinating a group of working people, 8 is about the maximum. And I taught physics and was given class sizes of 14 and 16. And I was able to teach by investigation by making pairs. They worked in teams, and then they could individually investigate, write reports, and I could evaluate their reports, and it was manageable. You take and put 30 children in a classroom, and all you can do is destroy their curiosity and make them behave. Hey, you know. I had told this former Army sergeant how I had a problem with remembering names, and when in front of a group of students and I couldn't remember their name, how embarrassing it was. There was no problem in the Army. You just said, "Hey, you," but that's another distraction. I see that with the lack of healthy homes, that children can grow from narcissism to homoerotic to heteroerotic to altruistic care for a baby, to caring for a community, for caring for society, for caring for the future in creation. That these homes are broken down. They need a family, a mother and a father and a mother in the home, and willing to wet nurse her own children for in the order of 5 years. But that is a mockery today. And so we have a bunch of children that can't grow above narcissism. Oh, look at my beautiful dress. Look at, oh, I'm a good actress. Look at my art. Look at my painting. Look at me. And they call it, that's what they called the Renaissance. It was nothing but degradation into narcissism with the upper classes. Look at their dress. Look at their behavior. Narcissism and celebrating it. But the degradation of children, that they had a bunch of children, and as adults they couldn't go through homosexuality, or they couldn't get through sadomasochistic behavior, like the evil Lord that had the Fourth Crusade and ended up not even going there, but murdering Christians at Constantinople to get their money, along with the Venetian lords. That's a whole another story. But how Christianity is a behavior, not a label. And the behavior comes from healthy child rearing. There's a predestination involved. So what do we do to make a healthy society? First of all, there's nothing you can do democratically, because you will never get elected going against the rights of the perverted and subverted. Women raised in daycare don't want to be bogged down with caring for their children. So they will vote for all kinds of anti-maternal abortion, daycare, whatever. They'll vote for it. They don't want to be burdened with a bondage of being bonded to a child. And young men being raised, so all they want to do is have a good time. And here in Russia, they drink. They were raised without love, and they don't have much of a special place. The girls in Russian society, their mothers have this narcissistic projection, and they're all like princes, and you see them dressed up so beautiful that most without a father or a meaningful male in the home, and unnecessary under their Russian socialism. But that's another thing. What I understand is society is going to break down. There are no more family farms except for the few Amish and some minor groups. But society is going to break down. Democracy is going to break down. And there needs to be a preparation to enforce a way that builds a healthy society. And that has to do with pregnancy. There should be no unwanted pregnancy, and then what I am advocating is that the state, after the breakdown of society, and the state is taken over by a benevolent control, there needs to be a prevention of conception unless there's a prepared home, and a single family home where the children have a mother and a father, and a mother in the home and a father providing. Well, how can, in a modern society, how can this work? First of all, there need to be communities, and that should be to make a community physical structure. Any sociologist will tell you the physical structure determines the social development of an environment. Whether you're talking a McDonald's restaurant or whatever. But like here where I live in Russia, there are many nice apartments with a playground in the middle, 4 apartments and a large ground for uh, swings and teeter-totters and a soccer field and basketball in the middle, and a relatively protected area that children can play in. Well, that has some value, but the children are largely stuck in apartments. Uh, like in our building, there's 70 some apartments, and the young children are seldom able to just go and freely play. They're being cared for by an old grandma much of the time. At any rate, my projection is that there should be prevention of conception unless there's a man and a woman prepared with a home and they want to have children, and there's reasonable expectation that they can give the care that the infant will need, and that they've gone to the trouble to get a single family home. And I recommend these single family homes be built in a block with a center, with backyards, room enough for a family garden, and a gate into a back area bounded by other single family homes, and this inner gated area with a community building for that community to have activities and meetings in, and the playground around about it, that the children can go into their backyard and into their play area, and with some degree of protection. That's number one, that they should have prepared for the infant, that there should be a prevention of pregnancy until there's demonstrated preparation and a desire to have the infant. And once that's been accomplished, if they show that they are able to care and the woman is willing to nurse this child, and there's a large probability that she, if she's nursing, that alters the hormones so that there's a much less possibility of getting pregnant. But in spite of that, whether there's a prevention of pregnancy or not, if the family demonstrates they've been able to care for that child, then there should be unlimited funding for as many children as that family wants to raise. By that I mean, besides the father providing the home and for the wife and the child, that for every child added, there should be the provision for the added food, for the added need for medical care, and for the added costs later on of education should be part of the government. The government should take responsibility so that money is not the limit and not forcing the mother out of the home, that the more children she has, and of course part of it with a large family, and a family of 8 would be a very desirable thing if there's love. When the children help children. I went to a country school, and yes, there were 6 grades in one room with one teacher, but it was a wonderful environment. Children were teaching children. It wasn't a dominating situation. There was only a handful in each grade, and the older children would help with the younger children, and the children were raised in healthy homes, so you could do that. And if a child acted out of place, they were set in a corner, and if they didn't then correct their behavior. Their father was told, and the discipline was mainly in the home. And it worked, but that wouldn't work today unless there was a healthy community. But the having children care for children, if they've been cared for, it's a natural thing. Farm families caring for one another and ensuring the safety and protection, but it requires a mother and a father. And it would be wonderful if we could reestablish farm families and have the father in the home and the family being productive. But that's another thing. Whether that's possible, I don't know. But the direction I'm saying to go in is, number one, like Obama said, he wouldn't want to punish. He has got 2 daughters. He wouldn't want to punish them by denying abortion if they make a mistake. Well, in the new world, where reason rules to try and make a healthy environment for children and prevent the murder of unwanted children, is to prevent the unwanted children. I believe the government should ensure that all young people are the technology developed to prevent them from causing or becoming pregnant, and that be a governmental policy of control to establish healthy homes. And the other so important thing, nobody should be in charge unless they've demonstrated they can raise a healthy family. There shouldn't be any judges or politicians that haven't raised a healthy family. By their fruits you shall know them. If you want somebody to understand intuitively, and you need to choose those who have shown by their fruits. And it's not a man or a woman, it's a couple that work together. They have to. There has to be things beyond what our science could tell you. Maybe later on we'll be able to discover, but by their fruits we can discover now. We can take wolves and make nice little lap dogs in a few generations by breeding. Let's not throw out the baby with the bathwater. Let's stop pregnancy of people who have genetic defects and causing unhealthy children. Let's investigate these things and bring some sanity to it rather than spending billions of dollars for getting rid of unwanted children and spending another billions of dollars to keep unhealthy children alive because they're genetically defective. Okay, so it's a hard thing to talk about, and you're not going to get elected talking about it, so nothing good is going to happen until society breaks down and some type of authoritarian control takes over to bring sanity. And then this discussion would make sense as someone tries to take responsibility to predestine children that they can grow to the higher levels, grow through narcissism, grow through homosexuality, grow through heterosexuality to altruistic levels of love for an infant, for a child, for the child's community, for the child's state, for the child's future, and the future of all mankind. Might sound foolish, but that is our service to God, in whom we live and move and have our being. Thank you.